This meeting of the Anderson Township Board of Zoning Appeals is hereby called to order. This board was established pursuant to Section 519.13 of the Ohio Revised Code by the Anderson Township trustees to provide administrative relief to any person or entity adversely affected by the Anderson Township zoning resolution. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Mr. Lawrence?
Here.
Mr. Nye?
Here.
Mr. Shekels?
Here.
Mr. Halpin?
Present.
Mr. Sion?
Here. Thank you for coming to this meeting of the Anderson Township Board of Zoning Appeals. Please be aware that this meeting is audio and videotaped and may be carried live on television. First, I'll outline our procedures. A summary of the appeal is presented by the staff, then the appellant will present its case. Board members may then ask questions of the appellant. After that, all persons supporting the appeal will be permitted to testify, one at a time, after being recognized by the chairman. When those persons supporting the appeal are finished, those opposed to the appeal will then be permitted to testify and or ask questions of the board after being recognized by the chairman. All persons wishing to testify, whether for or against an appeal, may only do so after being sworn in. When testifying, each person must come forward to the podium after being recognized, speak into the microphone, and state their name, address, and any affiliation to the case. All persons testifying will be limited to 4 minutes unless a board member requests additional time. All testimony is given to the board only. No comments or questions are to be directed to the appellant or anyone else in the audience. The board will only hear new, non-repetitive evidence or questions. Should someone wish to show support of previous testimony, they may do so by following the testimony procedures and stating their support of previous testimony. For those who will be giving testimony, please stand, raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you. I did see there was a minor change to tonight's agenda. Anything else other than what staff has provided?
No, just fixing the setback requirement for case 21. It was originally 7, then we moved it to 21 to match the application. So that's the only fix for the agenda from us.
Okay. Any other changes from?
You should have the amended
What was the
agenda.
change?
Could you repeat that for them, please?
Yeah, you should have the amended agenda in front of you.
Oh, I just got the one.
Out on the cable. Yeah, so
Not the-
originally
sorry, not the agenda, the minutes.
the minutes. Well, did we want to approve the agenda first?
Yeah, let's do. Sorry, let's go agenda. So, any questions from the board about the change in the agenda? Can we get a motion to approve?
I move that we approve the change.
A motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Lawrence?
Aye.
Mr. Nye?
Aye.
Mr. Shekels?
Aye.
Mr. Halpin?
Aye.
Mr. Sion?
Aye.
And then, yeah, for the minutes, I noticed that it said the wrong date at the top of the minutes. So it says June 6th when it's supposed to be August 1st. So if there's any other additional comments or questions?
Any other changes to the minutes? Can we get a motion to approve?
I move that we accept the minutes with the alteration.
Second.
A motion and a second. Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Lawrence?
Aye.
Mr. Nye?
Aye.
Mr. Shekels?
Aye.
Mr. Halpin?
Aye.
Mr. Sion?
Aye. And with that, will staff please read the summary for case 19-2024?
Certainly. Before we get to that, I just want to give a quick introduction to our new co-op, Mallory Clapp, who is joining us and will be helping out with things in planning and zoning with the township this term. So, without further ado, this is case 19-2024 BZA, submitted by Brian Gerbis on behalf of the property owner, located at 6859 5 Mile Road, zoned AA residence. And this is a request to allow habitation in a recreational vehicle where habitation in a recreational vehicle is not permitted per Article 3.1 I1B of the zoning resolution. And so the applicant is proposing to use the RV as a temporary living area while the primary residence is undergoing construction for an addition and other renovations. The RV will be located in the rear yard behind the back plane of the house, which is where an RV would normally be permitted, just not while someone is living in it. And the applicant has stated that by living at the RV, they can minimize the construction time that would be needed and finish their construction about 2 months earlier than if they had to live in the home during the construction. And as previously mentioned, the zoning resolution says that no recreational vehicles or mobile homes shall be used for purposes of permanent habitation, living, or housekeeping. The applicant received a stamp off for interior modifications in 2019 and was approved for 7 wall signs, 121 square feet, and that's from a different thing. Let's see, and then the house was built in 1990. The current owner purchased the property in April of 2023. Let's see. 4 zoning certificates on file, 2 for additions on the house in July and August of 2013, and a pool September of 2023, and 2 accessory structures and a fence on property. So this is a property map showing the parcel boundaries, the satellite view, and then the top topography map. So you can see there's a slight change in elevation. And then there's the creek on the the kind of south side of the property and on the west side of the property as well. And I believe that applicants currently own the property on the west side. Is that correct?
Assuming west.
Yeah, on the other side of the,
On the other side of that stormwater swale, we own that
Yep.
parcel as well.
Some of the photos from the inspection of the property. So this is looking from their the driveway on 5 Mile Road down towards the house. So that kind of back corner between where the pickup truck is and the side of the house, kind of in that area of the driveway, is where the kind of back further is where the RV will be. We'll get a little closer to that. So then these photos are looking at where the RV will be located, so kind of in that area of the grass between the tank trailer and the ladder for the slide that goes to the pool. So it's the location would be permitted, just not the use as a living quarters. And so this is some more views of the property from where the RV would be. So one looking towards the interior of the property with that pool, and then one looking towards the west side with the trees, or I think that might be the south towards the creek, kind of southwest, and then looking towards the driveway and 5 Mile along that western property line. Here's the submission from the applicant, and then the site plan showing where the RV will be located. And then, so I outlined some of the findings already, but so staff is of the opinion that the variance could be substantial. The zoning resolution prohibits habitation in an RV, and so this would be a pretty significant deviation from that, as well as public health potentially needing plans for water availability and disposal of waste for the RV if it becomes inhabited. The essential character of the neighborhood may not be altered, and adjoining properties might not suffer substantial detriment because the RV is being located in the back plane, behind the back plane of the residence, and there's significant screening from the trees located around where the RV will be, and then as you can see in these photos, it's substantially back from the roadway. So greater than 40 feet to the east and south lot lines. No adverse effect on governmental services. The property owner's predicament might be obviated through some other means than a variance. They did state that it is viable to live in the home while the construction is taking place at the property. It would just prolong it would extend the timeline for their construction. Staff is of the opinion that the spirit and intent behind the zoning requirement might not be observed by granting the variance. The zoning resolution is clear about the regulations related to RVs, and that the only permitted use for an RV is storage in the rear yard on residential properties. And here are the standards to consider the request.
Any questions from board and staff?
No.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I do have one question. I think you said this, but the planned additions and renovations are permitted and compliant with zoning, is that right?
Yeah, so I'm not sure if the additions, because I think there are some to be done. He can probably speak to those a little bit more in depth. I'll answer the question. As far as I know, everything looks like it should be compliant. I believe his architect just reached out recently just to figure out the process. But given the location of the house, unless they're doing significant modifications, it should be fine, I would think.
But we're not quite there yet in terms of.
I don't think so. I think it's probably, I'm assuming their plans probably change a little bit based off of what happens tonight, would be my guess.
Thanks.
But I'll let him talk about that.
Any further questions?
No.
Thank you. Will the appellant please step forward, state their name, address, and present their appeal?
Name Brian Gerbis, address 6859 5 Mile Road. And do you want me to review what has been reviewed?
You don't need to repeat what they said, but if you want to add anything relevant, that's up to you.
Just general process. So architect is not done with the drawings yet. Had him reach out to whomever does that here and just kind of make sure that he understands that whole process. But we're about, I don't know, a couple weeks out from having the drawings done for submittal to you guys, and then whatever Hamilton County needs to look at. So, but by moving it to the left of the house, we originally intended on the right of the house, we get off the MSD line that runs through my property. So no known issues that we could find, but no, otherwise, conceptually, we are just looking to not be in the builder's way by inhabiting a space on premise to ensure that we can kind of be part of the process, keep it moving along, that we're not toting 25 minutes to go meet and look at something, if possible. And then there was one note that I wanted to clarify, if this is the form to do that. There was a note that I indicated that it was viable to live in the house during construction and that the process would just be shortened if we weren't. It is true that the process will be shortened if we are not in the house, but there is a point in time where it will not be viable to live in the home during when they take the entire side of the house out. In parallel with some of the renovations, there's not necessarily a space that will exist with living quarters and all that kind of stuff. So wanted to clear that up because I couldn't find where I specifically stated that it was viable, albeit contextually I could get there with what was stated. So yeah, otherwise we picked a spot that we thought would be out of the way. It will have the easiest access to the MSD line via a clean out, which would have to be approved by Hamilton County MSD. Not a issue here necessarily on the approval side. And then I am on private water already. There's not a water line on that section of 5 Mile Road, so I view that also as more of a me problem than tapping into the city main with a different location or something like that. So I think both of those from that perspective are manageable on my side if approved. And then another note, I just, when I reviewed the zoning resolution, the one thing that I kept kind of going back to was it really felt like the spirit and intent of the zoning resolution was to ensure that somebody wasn't living in a camper in their driveway in a neighborhood. So I tried to illustrate through kind of a long-winded document per se that my property sits a little different than a standard, half-acre plot or quarter-acre plot. That we do have the ability to, basically there's nothing preventing me from parking a camper there now. So from an eyesore or kind of ruining the aesthetic of the quote-unquote neighborhood, if you want to call it that over there, the real difference is there an issue living in it versus not living in it, which it was an interesting process to get to this point because the zoning resolution is very, very clear on what I'm asking for. So I couldn't even file a permit to get to the point that it was rejected. So I tried to clear that up as well. So yeah, otherwise, kind of a long construction process, looking to shave some time off of it and not be, inconvenience my daughter who attends AIR so that we can still utilize the busing and some other, simple amenities like that. Staying closer to daughter's preschool on Beachmont, just trying to limit the inconveniences as much as possible because inherently it will be inconvenient to live in a recreational vehicle as well. But we're trying to kind of pick the poison on which one of those is more inconvenient. So trying to keep our options open. So otherwise, I'm not going to run back through what we're planning on doing unless there's questions.
How many of you will be living in the RV? And is it an RV or is it a camper?
Camper, tow behind.
So it's
Well-
like a Nimrod?
Say that again?
Is it a Nimrod?
I don't know what that is.
A Nimrod is a flat kind of vehicle that opens up.
No.
No, it's a fifth wheel. Fifth wheel.
fifth wheel.
It more like, so to clarify, I don't own yet. Obviously not going to purchase if not viable. But the intent would be it would be a long travel trailer or a fifth wheel. Something new. I wanted to kind of clarify the differences between my situation and this situation immediately adjacent to me.
Self-propelled is something you tow.
Correct. Yep.
I got, go ahead. On your document you submitted, received August 5th, you're going to tell me that that's just a typo, that you can't build that backwards because I'm in construction. Because you said you were starting in October and finishing in April of 2024.
April of 2025.
Yeah. So it's okay for us to correct the document?
Yes.
Correct? Okay. Where do you anticipate you applying for permit date-wise from here?
Okay. John asked a question that didn't answer. 4 inhabitants.
Oh, okay.
Myself, my wife, and my 2 daughters.
And at the other end, are you still good with a 7-month construction schedule? From the point you obtain the permit to the point that you obtain occupancy and the permit is approved?
Okay. So, in theory, we should be submitting for the permit in the next 3 weeks, I believe. It will come to Anderson. Now, obviously, you guys aren't the final destination, and I understand Hamilton County could take 3-ish weeks or so with it. So, by the time I wrote this document, we're a little bit behind schedule on that front. The latest date is the 2nd week of October or 3rd week of October for start of construction, and same duration off of that start date.
The duration you're still good with then?
If I have
I'm
any,
in the business, so I know it drags.
if
and
I have
so,
anything to
yeah.
do with it, it will be 7 months. But I also have lived this at times, so another kind of piece of the puzzle of being closer to it. I work in a very similar field, so I thought staying adjacent that I can solve problems a little quicker than, hey, I'll be there in 45 minutes or an hour or whatever it might be. So, yeah, just another piece of the puzzle.
Can we go to one of the aerial views here? I'm not sure I even care which one. Just want to make sure I understand a couple of things. Okay, so you're in red there. To the left, upper left, you also own that across the creek or ditch or whatever. Is that correct?
I own most of what you see right there. The property line runs,
Oh yeah, I can sort of see it there.
yeah.
All right, and then,
Yeah.
and so across the street from that other parcel you own is a vacant parcel that backs up to 275.
Correct.
But then directly across from your driveway is, what, 6870? Is that one of the people who sent the letter in support?
No, that is Grimes is their last name. And I have talked to him about it, but didn't get a letter from him.
Is there a Grimes here?
So the 2, just so you're aware, the 2 that are supporting is the one directly under, essentially, if you're looking at it that way. And
That's
then
the hunters, right?
the Hunters, and then out of picture by the parcel I own is the Caldwells.
To the left.
Yeah, up
Okay,
to the
I see.
left.
Okay. From the Grimes' driveway, like if you left their house, came down their driveway, could you see the camper from there? Seems like there's some trees, there's a fence, it's downhill.
So and you can kind of see they've been struggling because it doesn't rain around here anymore, but there is some trees that have been planted up there if you look where that power pole is.
Yeah.
And those trees were planted with the intent, because that driveway looked right into my house. I planted those just to ensure that there wasn't a line of sight into there. So because I did that, if those trees weren't there, yes, you probably could at times. Because those trees are there, and if they continue to fill out, no, you should not be able to. But I've not sat in his driveway and looked.
Sure, okay, but you're trying to limit the effect on your neighbors in that respect. Okay, so then the hunters on the other side, how long have you lived in your property?
April of 23, so
It's a year and a half.
yeah.
And how long have the hunters lived there?
How long have the
That's
hunt?
a new construction, right?
They've owned that property as long as I have lived there.
Okay.
How long they have been in the structure itself, I don't know when they formally moved in.
Where did they live before that?
Where did they live before they lived?
Before they moved into the structure, as you said. Did they live in an RV on the lot?
They submitted or stated that it was a construction management trailer. Does that make sense?
So
Does that sound familiar?
I can answer that a little bit. Officially,
Yeah,
I know the answer.
I'm deferring on this one because that.
so from our understanding, what was told to us was that it was used for an office space, which is permitted in our resolution. It was not used for habitation purposes.
Okay.
They just received occupancy recently, so they're no longer using the RV. It's being stored in the back right portion when you're looking at the house. And they have currently taken up occupancy, if so.
Okay.
That is our current knowledge of the situation.
Okay.
We did receive complaints of habitation, but we were not able to find any evidence of such. We did do inspections of the property, but it was, again, what was told to us was used for construction office purposes only, was what was officially told to us.
Okay, fair enough. So we've got one neighbor on their side who may or may not have lived in a similar trailer. We've got the neighbor across the street who's got some trees blocking it. The neighbor to the west is you. The neighbor on the other side of you on the west has submitted a letter of support. So that's all. And to the
And the neighbor
south
behind is Withrow Nature Preserve.
Right, okay. So nobody who's actually touching your property would seem to have any issue with this. You got an interstate on this other side of the other neighbors, right?
I don't have anything formally from Brad Grimes, who
Right.
lives across the street.
Right. Okay. Those are all my questions. Thank you.
Any further questions from the board?
None?
Thank you. You may sit.
All right,
sit down.
thank you.
Does anyone else wish to speak in favor of this appeal? Seeing none, does anyone wish to speak in opposition to this appeal? Seeing none, can we get a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Mr. Lawrence?
Aye.
Mr. Nye?
Aye.
Mr. Shekels?
Aye.
Mr. Halpin?
Aye.
Mr. Simon?
Aye. Who'd like to start us off with
Well,
discussion?
I want to relay a conversation I had with a member of the zoning committee this week. I called to ask a question, and my question was, can we give a variance for a specific period of time? And I was told by that member of zoning that we could. That we could start it at X date and it would expire on Y date.
Okay.
I just wanted to relay that conversation to everybody on the board.
I can confirm that.
You confirm it too?
We talked with Paul, and we don't have any cases like this specifically, but he believes in this specific situation, we can put a time frame on the variance,
Right.
which is what he's requesting.
Because I would not grant the variance if it was gonna be permanent, but the understanding that we can do that, I would support this.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I mean, it's not the typical, it's not a subdivision, right? It's a unique property. It's an unusual road. The only nearby neighbors either, as far as we can tell, don't mind, either because they submitted a letter in support or they're not here. guy who is probably most likely to see it across the street has trees and stuff, trees, a fence, a hill, blocking it. I think as long as it's not permanent, I don't see any reason this doesn't make sense.
The only question I had in my mind, though, is a start date. That's why I was asking about, you know, because at what point do we put a start trigger in that motion? Is the date the permit is approved? Do we just arbitrarily say the middle of October and count 7 months out from that? What are your guys' thoughts on that?
I have thoughts about that.
Okay.
Someone just had a large construction project at his house last year.
Okay.
That was supposed to take 6 weeks and took 9 months.
Right.
Sorry.
No,
I think we should maybe say, you know, a year from now or something. So I won't mess with 7 months or 9 months. Say give him a year, and if the year is coming up and God forbid it's still going, he can come back and ask for an extension or something. I think that's reasonable.
I'm okay with that. Just as long as it's not a permit. That was my key.
Right.
For the
Okay.
Any other discussion?
Just so I understand, so water and sewage, he's private water,
You want me to step back up?
and,
Yeah.
Can you hear me okay?
We
yeah,
would need to reopen the public portion.
We need to
Motion to reopen the public portion, the evidentiary portion of the public hearing.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Lawrence,
aye.
Mr. Nye,
Aye.
Mr. Shekels,
Aye.
Mr. Halpin,
Aye.
Mr. Sion.
Aye.
This may look,
Please
sound
step
a little
forward.
crazy if you're listening, but in this discussion here, we can't talk to you when we're,
When we close the
when we
public
close the
hearing.
public hearing, okay?
Okay.
We
Theoretically, we're in
could
another room.
theoretically go behind the door and have that discussion. That's why we have to reopen it.
So we're open?
Yeah, we're open.
Okay.
So I'm curious, as far as water and sewage, because you said you were private water, so your cistern,
Well,
well water?
yes,
And-
with a holding tank.
And septic.
There is a, man, is there a picture that, right about where that picture, go to the one with the water tank in it. So directly to the left, essentially, of that water tank. That's just how I haul water when I run short. The sewer line runs right under my driveway through there, the main MSD line. There's a clean out about where you see that bush in the very bottom left corner. And through some light research, as long as Hamilton County or the city of Cincinnati is okay with it, you can tap into the clean out with a sealed connection and a recommended backflow preventer, just for my own sanity and health. The one part that I, full transparency, don't have quite figured out yet is my well is on the other side of the house. So during construction, the holding tank for the well will be in the way at some point and have to be removed. So I do have a point in time where I need to figure out how to supply myself with water, but I also have a 1,000-gallon tank that I can haul water to myself if and when needed. In an ideal world, I would drill a well back there that I would use temporarily and then use as an irrigation well in the future. But again, I need to submit a permit for that, and I got to work that through that proper process. So that's kind of what it looks like to me. But since I'm on private water right now, I have to solve my long-term private water problem regardless of my temporary living condition,
Okay, but you will have a constant source of water, one way or the other.
one way or the other. I got to figure it out, but I'm not going to live here if I don't have a constant source of water. I will figure out other accommodations, obviously, if I can't solve that problem.
Okay.
So when do you think you're gonna start living in the RV?
In a perfect world where permits go through sometime late October-ish, knowing that if the first phase of the construction is not too destructive and it's cutting in foundation or something for the addition, and we can live in the house a little bit longer than that, we are obviously going to live in the house as long as reasonably accommodating.
So if we started from October to next October, you think that would be enough time?
It'd give me something to press on my builders for. So I'm very hopeful that it will be. We do not have the most detailed construction schedule yet because the permit and the drawings aren't 100% done, but I'm hopeful it won't drag out longer than 12 months, obviously.
Okay. You can go out.
Motion to close the public hearing again.
Second?
A motion is second. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Mr. Lawrence?
Aye.
Mr. Nye?
Aye.
Mr. Shekels?
Aye.
Mr. Halpin?
Aye.
Mr. Sion?
Aye.
You ready?
Having that discussion, do we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, in case number 19-2024, I move that we grant the variance request to allow habitation in a recreational vehicle for a limited time, and that time period being October 1st of 2024 through September 30th of 2025, submitting as backup the documents submitted by the owner, and also referencing the letters of support from neighbors. And anything else needs to be added to that? I don't think so.
Second?
We have a motion and second. Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Lawrence?
Aye.
Mr. Nye?
Aye.
Mr. Shekels?
Aye.
Mr. Halpin?
Aye.
Mr. Sion?
Aye. With that, you're tentatively approved. Staff, do you have any?
We'll be in touch early next week. Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
That staff read case 20-2024 BZA, please.
Okay, so this is 2024 BZA, submitted by Michelle White, who's the property owner, located at 752 Pickwick Drive, which is zoned B residence, and this is a variance to request a 18-foot diameter above-ground pool with decking in the southern front yard of a double frontage lot, which, per the zoning resolution, I'll just go to the picture first. That, as you can see, this property is located on off of the cul-de-sac on Pickwick, which is where the driveway is, but then there's also that frontage on Woodruff, so that rear frontage, that southern frontage, also gets a front yard setback, and accessory structures, including pools, would have to be located outside of that setback, which on this property, the pool would be located within that setback area. And so the property owner is requesting a variance to put a pool within that setback. And so that's explained kind of in writing here. Height of the pool is 52 inches, setback 13.5 feet from the western property line and 9.5 feet from the southern property line. The house was built in 1971. The current property owner purchased it in August of 2020. In 2021, an application was requested for a 6-foot high privacy fence, which replaced a 4-foot chain link fence along the southern property line. That request was approved on May 3rd, 2021 through the Board of Zoning Appeals. Let's see. And so there is an existing privacy fence which is compliant with zoning through the BCA process for that case. That was case 9/2021 BZA. So this is the property map that I showed earlier with the parcel lines showing the frontage on both Woodruff and Pickwick. The aerial imagery, and you can see the shadow from that privacy fence along that southern property line. Here is the topography map, so mostly flat, a little bit of slope, nothing too severe. This is photos from the inspection of the property. I believe so the pool is kind of going in that that back corner that you can see in that upper left photo. And as you can see, there's vegetative screening with that 4-foot high fence on the western side of the property, and then there's that 6-foot high privacy fence that you can see in the photo on the upper right. And that's on the southern property line. Here's some more photos showing kind of the view from north towards Pickwick from the area where the pool would be, with the vegetation, and then there's fencing. And this is the view from the Woodruff side, and so you can see the kind of the back of that fence and vegetation. The submission from the applicants and the site plan showing the location that the pool will go if it is approved by the board. So the variance would not be substantial. The pool is proposed to go 9.5 feet from the front property line adjacent the quote-unquote front property line, which is the south one, along Woodruff Road. There's an existing privacy fence and trees and bushes which provide enough screening that, like, you can see in this photo that, like, something would have to be above 6 feet to even really be visible from that side of the property. For similar reasons, essential character would not be altered. The vegetation on the left side kind of screens it from their view, and also kind of, if you think about this as like a normal lot without that kind of southern frontage, like, for all intents and purposes, like, this is where a pool would normally be allowed to be. It's just that this is an unusual property with that double frontage, so even without that screening, it would be, without that, if there wasn't that double frontage, it would be permitted. No impact to governmental services. Because of that front yard required setback area along the southern frontage, they really don't have much option for putting a pool on their property in their kind of traditional backyard area. And then we're of the opinion that the spirit and intent of the zoning resolution would be observed because it's a double frontage lot, which has kind of a unique condition. There's limited space to construct a pool without requesting a variance, and the fence, again, kind of screens that part of the yard from that southern frontage along Woodruff. And then here are the standards to consider.
Thank you. Any questions of staff? Seeing none, will the appellant or the appellant's representative please step forward, state their name, address, and present their appeal?
Hello, my name is Casey Terry. I am the appellant's daughter. She lives at 752 Pickwick Drive, GMI.
Yes, please.
45324 Forest Avenue in Norwood. So I don't have too much to add to this. I actually was before you a few years ago to request the variance for the fence. I think the spirit of this requirement is that people aren't putting pools in their front yard, and because of her lot, her backyard is technically a front yard. So there's really nowhere else to put this pool, and that you won't be able to see the pool from the neighbors across the street on Woodruff, or even the neighbors on either side of her, and because of the trees and the bushes and stuff. And since she did get this variance for the fence 3 years ago, in my mind, she's already established that this is a backyard, and is just making further improvements to her property. So, happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? No? Thank you.
Cool. Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to speak in favor of this appeal? Does anyone wish to speak in opposition to this appeal? Seeing none, can we get a motion to close the public hearing?
I move that we close the public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Mr. Lawrence?
Aye.
Mr. Nye?
Aye.
Mr. Shekels?
Aye.
Mr. Halpin?
Aye.
Mr. Simon?
Aye. Who'd like to start us off with discussion?
I will. I remember this property from last time. It's got an unusual second front yard. It's not even a corner lot like a lot of them. In no real sense is that yard a front yard because of the way the purposes, and there's no other way to feasibly obviate their predicament, and I think the spirit and intent behind the requirement would be observed, and substantial justice would be done by granting the variance. So I would recommend that we grant it consistent with the submission dated August 14th.
Agree.
I agree.
Can we get a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Lawrence?
Aye.
Mr. Nye?
Aye.
Mr. Shekels?
Aye.
Mr. Halpin?
Aye.
Mr. Sion?
Aye. That you're tentatively approved, staff will be in touch with further instructions. And staff, please read the report for case 21-2024.
Case 21, 2024 BZA, submitted by Ryland Babs, property owner of 595 Bernie Lane, zoned AA residence. This is multiple variance requests for accessory structures on the property. Variance A is a request to allow 2 accessory structures in the front and side yards, both 12 foot by 12 foot, where accessory structures are only permitted in the rear yard, per Article 5.2, Section A7. Variance B is a request to allow 1 agricultural structure, size 8 foot by 15 feet, in the front yard with a proposed setback of approximately 21 feet, where 100 feet from all property lines is required per Article 3.1, Section C11. So the applicant is requesting to keep 1 existing 12 foot by 12 foot shed located in the front yard on the east side of the property. I will go to the site plan here. So that shed is number 3 here. They're proposing an additional 12 foot by 12 foot shed, which is the outline number 2, and then they are proposing the 8 foot by 15. They are requesting to keep the agricultural structure, which is item number 1 on this site plan, which is 8 feet by 15 feet. So the house was constructed in 1959 and purchased by the current property owner in December of 2019. The zoning certificate is on file for the 4 foot high, 75% open fence in the front yard and side yard installed by the current property owner in December of 2019. On June 24th of this year, staff received a complaint about chickens on the property. Staff inspected the property from the right-of-way and found a structure in the front yard visible from the right-of-way and a yard sign that read "Fresh Eggs for Sale." The property owner was contacted on July 16th, informing them of the violation and that the chicken coop would need to be removed or have a variance to bring the property into compliance. After which the property owner independently applied for a zoning certificate for the proposed 12 foot by 12 foot shed, and was informed at that point that the open violation would need to be resolved before a zoning certificate could be issued. Initially, the property owner stated that the agricultural structure was a playset, and then when staff asked permission to inspect the property to confirm that there was no chicken coop, the request was denied by the property owner. And then staff again informed him that the variance would be necessary to keep the playset and shed in their current locations and allow the new shed in its proposed location. After applying for a variance, the applicant gave staff permission to inspect the property in the process of preparing for the BZA Board of Zoning Appeals meeting, at which point it was confirmed that the playset structure was a chicken coop used for agricultural purposes. So here is the property map showing the property outlined in red, with Bernie Lane kind of going to this kind of south along that kind of wavy line through the, and then Interstate 275 is, you can see in the red lines there. The property with that 0147 on it is Township Green Space. Here's aerial imagery showing the same thing, the topography. And so as you can see, there is quite a significant change of elevation along this property, with the lowest points being in that kind of southwestern, kind of southern end of the property along Burney Lane, and then increasing quite significantly up to that northern corner of the property. Here's some photos from the property showing the front yard. You can see the chicken coop structure in the bottom photos, and then the existing shed along the driveway in the top photos. And then the house is visible as well. And then, so here's some other photos. So the one on the upper right is a view back towards the driveway from where the chicken coop is. The lower right-hand view is the view from Burney Lane, looking at the chicken coop, which is a little bit hard to see, but right there in this image. But if you're driving along, you can.
Before you move on,
Yeah.
where the photo on the upper left,
Mhm.
where is the photographer standing?
Yeah. This one.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's standing kind of in the front yard, kind of like,
We're standing in front of the house.
I see. I see. Okay.
yeah.
And that,
Bernie would be to the left.
can you go back to? Go back?
That is correct.
So the top left is the chicken coop?
That,
Okay.
I think it's one structure. The applicant can kind of speak to what specifically makes up the chicken coop and what doesn't.
But
From my understanding, it looks like most of the structure, if not all of it, is the chicken coop.
Okay, all right.
But again, he can speak to the accuracy of that statement or not.
Yeah. And then just showing the rear yard on the bottom left-hand image. And so you can see there's some change in elevation there compared with the kind of flatter grade of that front yard area. And then the top left photo is showing that kind of western side yard which is next to the township green space. And then I believe the applicant stated that the proposed shed location will be kind of 10 feet north, roughly, of where the chicken coop is. So kind of somewhere around the opposite end of the trampoline from where the chicken coop is. This is the submission from the applicant and the site plan with the dimensions and setbacks. So staff findings. So for the first variance, staff is of the opinion that the property would yield a reasonable return without granting the variances for the two sheds. The property is zoned single-family residence and would yield a reasonable return without them. While the topography poses a challenge, the property would be permitted to have both sheds in the rear yard 3 feet from property lines. Staff is of the opinion that the variance might be substantial. The locations of the existing shed and the proposed shed are well outside of the rear yard. However, their location may not have a significant impact visually due to the hilly topography. The sheds are also screened by vegetation during the summer, but it is unclear whether they would be visible during the winter, since we're obviously doing this while there are leaves on the trees. And then staff is of the opinion that the essential character of the neighborhood similarly might not be altered. Again, there's that, during the summer at least, there's the screening from vegetation, and the parcels nearest the proposed shed are township green space and the right-of-way for Interstate 275. No adverse effect to government services. Staff is of the opinion that the property owner's predicament may not be feasibly obviated through some method other than a variance. The terrain could present a challenge which cannot be overcome without a variance. And staff is of the opinion that the spirit and intent behind the zoning requirement might be observed by granting the variance. The intent of requiring accessory structures in the rear yard is to keep them out of public view and prevent a cluttered aesthetic from the roadway. These structures are pretty much hidden from the road, as you can see in this picture. You can see you can't really see much of the house at all, and you certainly can't see that existing shed from the road really. But again, that could change in winter. And then for variance B, which is relating to the agricultural structure currently being used as a chicken coop, staff is of the opinion that the property in question will yield a reasonable return without granting the variance of an agricultural structure 21 feet and 25 feet from the closest property lines. The property is zoned for single-family residence and would yield a reasonable return without there being an agricultural structure on the property. The variance may be substantial. The location of the chicken coop is outside of the rear yard and only 21 feet from the nearest property line, which is a significant deviation from the required 100-foot setback for agricultural structures. However, those deviations, again, might be mitigated by the natural screening and hilly topography, which makes the chicken coop less visible from the road, although it is still visible. And then the essential character of the neighborhood might be altered. The chicken coop is partially screened by existing vegetation, and the parcels closest to it are township green space and the right-of-way for Interstate 275, which are not occupied by residents. And then the chicken coop is also located away from neighboring residences. The variance would not adversely affect the delivery of governmental services, and then the spirit and intent behind the zoning requirement might not be observed granting the variance. Buildings or structures incidental to the use of the land for agricultural purposes are required to be set back at least 100 feet from every property line to prevent those agricultural uses on lots which cannot provide enough distance to not be a nuisance to neighboring properties. The incident that prompted this application being necessary for a chicken coop was a complaint about chickens on the applicant's property. And then here are the standards to review the variance requests.
Thank you. Any questions for staff?
Just one of the very last things you said about the purpose being to prevent agricultural uses in a place that can't accommodate it. Is there any place on this lot where a chicken coop would be permitted?
No, there's no location where they would be able to meet that 100-foot setback.
I would add to that, if there was, it would most likely be in the rear yard where there's significant incline, so I think there's probably not a viable location even if they were able to meet a 100-foot setback.
Any further questions for staff? Will the appellant or the appellant's representative please step forward, state your name, address, and present your appeal?
Hello, my name is Rylan Babbs. I live at 595 Bernie Lane. I'd just like to clarify a couple of things if I can. I moved the egg box to the end of the driveway. It said, eggs for sale. And I think that's why the complaint came about. Without that box being to the end of the driveway, no one can see that I have chickens. No one can hear them. In retrospect, maybe I shouldn't have put the box at the end of the driveway. And I can certainly remove that if this panel decides that I should. I live in a super private setting, surrounded by trees and green space area. The neighbors behind me, there's a significant hill and trees, so you cannot see into my yard from the neighborhood behind me. Additionally, from the street, and I can show you guys, there was a question about the coop. If we can go back to that picture, that'd be great. So the top left picture here, where there's a sloped metal roof, you see that there's an actual structure there. That is a playset. So I wasn't trying to be deceptive when I told the zoning board, yeah, that's a playset. It's a children's playset that has been there, and I knew that there wasn't a need for a zoning permit certificate for a children's playset. So that's why I decided to put the rain enclosure and the fence matching around that to house any chickens. So it's kind of a dual purpose thing. There's a sandbox inside of there. You know, we've had a slide which we removed just prior to their visit. So my kids use it. The chickens go in and out of there as well. There are nesting boxes. I'm not going to deny that there are chickens housed in that area. The place that's right closest to that trampoline is something that I put up temporarily because I was planning to grow some tomatoes. Didn't get around to that this year. We've had a lot going on. So yeah, it is a play set. The entire thing is not the coop. It's just that sloped A-frame structure there. What you see in front of that, I suppose, is just an addition to the structure to keep the rain out of that area. They thrive much better when the conditions are dry. So without that, it becomes kind of like a sloppy, muddy mess in that corner of the yard. I chose that area because of its flat area, and also because of all the honeysuckle and township green space area that keeps it private. Any other area of the yard has such a steep slope and incline that you really can't put anything there. So yeah, privacy-wise, you can't hear or see them for any neighbors except for my neighbors, which are here with me tonight. The neighbors directly to the east of my property on Bernie Lane is the only one that has a partial view when there's no leaves on the trees in the wintertime. Also, regards to the shed, I know that's a part of this resolution as well. The shed, when we moved into the property in 2019, there was 2 existing sheds. When we moved in there in 2019, we had no idea that the owners prior to us didn't apply for a permit, that they didn't do what was necessary. So we decided to tear down the 2 existing sheds, which were bright red and stood out. They were full of mice and snakes. Tear those down and replace them with one existing shed, which is paint matched to the house. And you can see in the top right picture here, that is the shed, and that's the flattest location of our property, and that's why we chose that location. Aside from that, using a shed for housing a lawnmower and different things, it was really difficult or impossible to house a shed on an incline. And that's why we chose that location. If there's any pictures that we can pull up of like the actual backyard areas as concerned to the township, what a backyard area is. So bottom left, it's a significant hill. It's actually hard to mow that area as well because it's such a steep hill. That is what's considered our backyard and where a shed should be. But we have never used that area as our backyard. We actually enter our house from where the shed area is there. I don't know if you can go to that picture from the driveway looking at the house. So that's where we enter, through the garage. So we've never once used what is actually listed as the front door. And I know technically if it's supposed to parallel Bernie Lane to be your backyard, where the chicken coop and where the proposed shed location that is not constructed yet, where that is what we consider our backyard. It's the most private, flat area, and it's in the back of where we enter the house. We have a triangular lot, so it's kind of one of those lots that's hard to discern exactly where the side yard or the backyard is. Additionally to that, noise. We have the highway in our front yard. All of the neighbors to the back in that neighborhood, again, they have trees, hills. They cannot see into our yard. And to answer the question from zoning that was explained, even in the winter months, when the leaves are gone, you cannot see any more of what is the existing chicken coop area. You can kind of see in that bottom right picture, there's inside of the open door of the coop, there's green netting inside of the fence line, just to keep any visuals from the road. So even when all of the leaves are down, you can't see into that area. And it's also elevated from the road, kind of up on a hill. So again, the vision is obstructed from any passerbys.
Anything else? No questions from the board?
Where were the sheds put off the
So, actually, can we go back to that last picture? So on the top left picture, you'll see my silver SUV. So that is like the sloped backyard area. There was an existing red shed that was actually sitting on the township green space owned area. Again, I didn't construct that shed. Once we found out it was sitting on the township area and its dilapidated state, we tore it down and decided to replace it with one shed. The other shed, I don't think we have a picture that shows that area, but the opposite side of the driveway, from where the existing shed is where the other shed was, which is up on a hill, which kind of made it impossible to put anything in or out of there.
Yeah, it was on a significant slope. Both were on pretty significant slopes that were, again,
And when did you tear those down?
I moved in December 2019. I tore them down before the end of summer 2020, that following summer of living there.
And how long have the other chickens?
It's a good question. Somewhere around a year, some change. And we've followed guidelines as far as all female hens, and there's only 10 of them. We're not going to have any more than that, to Anderson Township policies. And I don't want to say who, but there's a township employee that we contacted beforehand, like, hey, what should we do? We want to have a couple of chickens, give our kids some, solid nutrition instead of Pop-Tarts in the morning. What should we do? And, is this area okay? We were told as long as it's 100 feet from any other residences, and since the back part of that is all green space area, we thought we were okay by, setting the play set and everything else there. We weren't trying to be deceptive or go against any rules. We should have probably called into the people that actually knew, like zoning, before doing that, but again, there's no houses to the west of that. It's all green space areas. We thought it was like an actual structured house that had to be 100 feet away from.
Can you go to the lot map? Yeah. Any of these is fine. Actually, not this one. This is great. Okay. So 147 is the green space lot that goes up to Watch Point or Watch Hill or whatever the watch is there. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. And then I see the red dashed line. Is everything below that line 275 right away? In other words, right on Bernie, essentially directly south of your house, there's a small lot. None of that is buildable, right? It's essentially under 275.
So, I'm not sure. I'm not sure
It's
what
owned by
exactly
Rick
the red
Moore.
dash line is, but this is the property
Oh,
line
I see. Okay.
there, and then so the township green space actually kind of like hooks around like that, and then so the property line goes there, but then this little bit is township green space, and then this is a whole parcel as well, and then these are the highway right of way.
So no risk of a new neighbor to the southwest, essentially? Right, okay. And then across Bernie, same thing, because that is essentially within the 275 right of way. There's a kind of a triangular lot that has a 39. Do we know whether that's a buildable lot?
I haven't looked into it.
But there's no
That-
house there now, is that right?
And double A, I feel like that'd probably be pretty difficult to pull that off because it's, again, going to be our least dense zoning district.
And there's no house there now?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Correct. The guy across from me owns 10 acres, and he's the biggest connoisseur of the eggs, if you say. And then the two lots just
Nice.
west are vacant of the western green space area.
Do you sell the eggs?
So a lot of neighbors, I always tell them, they're free, don't put any money in there, but there is a money box. It does say $3 a dozen. It's just to pay for the feed to the chickens. If it's the decision of this board that I remove that box, I'm fine with doing that as well. I've been giving them away for free for so long. If, with 10 hens, I have enough to feed my family for the week in just 2 days. So the other, 5 days worth of getting eggs, I just give away or sell if somebody wants to put some money in the box.
I'm good.
No further questions? Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak in favor of this appeal? Please state your name, address, and present your,
My name's Paul Cluse. I live at 601 Bernie Lane, right next door to Riley. We really have no issues with the chickens. We wouldn't know they were there if it wasn't for the box at the end of the driveway. But we don't have any issues with the sheds either. I hardly notice they're there because there's a lot of honeysuckle bushes up the property line between us, and yeah, it's quiet. I'm just here to give my support, and I have no issues with any of the structures or chickens.
How long have you lived there?
Oh, it's been 24, 25 years. Yeah. All right.
no other questions? Thank you, sir. Does anyone else wish to speak in favor of this appeal? Seeing none, does anyone wish to speak in opposition to this appeal? Seeing none, can we get a motion to close the public hearing?
Move that we close the public hearing?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Will Secretary please call the roll?
Mr. Lawrence?
Aye.
Mr. Nye?
Aye.
Mr. Shekels?
Aye.
Mr. Halpin?
Aye.
Mr. Simon?
Aye. Who'd like to start us off with this case?
I will. I would grant the variances. I think, chickens and ducks and other small animals have come up a few times. And we've granted some of them and have not granted others. I'm aware of that. I think if you're going to grant a variance for it, this seems like the place to do it. They're essentially bordered on the south by the interstate and on the west by green space that you can never build on. I guess that other one to the left, to the west, is a vacant lot, and maybe someday there could be a house there, but there's not now. Between the shape of the lot, the topography, the unbuildability of most of the surrounding area, and the only nearby neighbor being in support of it, I certainly can't conclude that it's going to have a substantial effect on the character of the neighborhood, which I think is kind of a big thing we try to protect here. I think when I read the initial report, I was a little concerned about maybe the applicant was being dishonest about what was there. He's got an explanation for that. Obviously, I think we wish he would have been more forthcoming initially, but trying to set that aside and just looking at it objectively, this seems like the right case to grant this kind of variance.
Well, I know I voted against the last one we had here, and that was because of where it was and the visibility it had in the community, basically, and I thought that was the wrong decision. In this case, I believe because of the location, it is the right place to grant the variance, but we grant a variance for perpetuity, and boy, sometime I'm gonna practice that before next month's meeting. So I would put a restriction in there at 10 hens, because once we grant this, there's no limit, except how many you can get there.
Is there any other limit in our zoning code on how many hens you can have if we don't impose it as a condition?
I believe our stance as a township is to not regulate animals. We strictly regulate structures, so I don't believe we have any limits on number of animals.
By granting the variance, we could put conditions into the variance.
Theoretically, if, like, again, unless.
No,
there's
well,
just-
I'm not.
And it's not, yeah, I see what you're saying, not necessarily
it's not-
him,
It's
you're
not
concerned
theirs,
with.
but they sell it next month,
Is-
and some guy decides he wants to rent,
You put 40 hens on
400
it, yeah.
chickens on the site.
Yes. Would-
You know,
I get-
that's where we are.
To answer your question, I don't believe we have any regulations concerning the number of chickens or animals in general. I don't believe we practice that.
But we do conditions on variances.
Don't you need a rooster?
No.
I,
You don't need a rooster?
Only if you want more chickens.
Sure.
Oh, is that?
That's how it happens.
Unfertilized eggs, John.
I'm a plumber's son, I'm not a plumber.
It's basic science.
Anyway, I would support it, but I do feel strongly we should have some restriction on the numbers, just because this is forever.
Sounds good to me.
Your thoughts, Jeff? Because you look like you're.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah. I mean, I think it's not a terrible idea. I'm not sure it's necessary. I'm not. Yeah, sure, I guess. What else?
I'm sure the.
I don't feel that
I'm sure
strongly
they-
about
No,
it.
I know,
Yeah.
but I'm just sure the good neighbors next door would not appreciate when there's 200 chickens on the lot.
Yeah, I mean, I just.
Well, the way I see it is he's got 10 chickens now and he's giving eggs away because he's got so many. So
Yeah.
why would you take on 25 or 50 chickens?
I don't know.
Unless you're starting a chicken business, which is a completely different animal, so.
Yeah.
Or an egg business.
It seems unlikely to happen, but I take
Yeah.
your point. I think the other thing that you try to remember is that just because something may be permitted by zoning or variance doesn't mean it would be a nuisance. It would be otherwise practical.
And if he had 200 chickens, I'm sure his neighbor would be knocking on the door saying, wait a
Then you'd
second,
have a nuisance issue.
we need to
Yeah.
rethink this.
And then I'd say, well, remember what I said 3 years ago? I told you this was gonna happen.
Any further discussion?
I mean, I guess I'd like to hear what you two think about capping a number.
What Mr. Shekel was presenting, I think it's reasonable, and bring up the point, a year from now, there's 200 there. From what I understand, hearing from staff, I mean, there's nothing that we said, we do restrict it, there's nothing that says also that we can't impose a limit, per se, on that variance.
no, from my interpretation, again, as a third party, it's not necessarily that Mr. Shekels has any concerns about the current property owner.
No.
It would be more pertaining to if it gets sold in 40 years, is there gonna be somebody that perhaps
Right.
purchases more that it becomes a nuisance? I think that's his concern.
With that said, we did not restrict the number of ducks in the last meeting. So
And
I would
don't-
rather have 200 chickens on his lot than 200 ducks on the other lot.
I voted against it anyway, so. My hands are freer.
And is that something you brought up, even though it's passed, but?
Let's roll the tape.
So pertaining to this case,
So let's focus on this one.
Yeah.
It sounds like there's a consensus to grant $10.
I'll mix it.
And chicken.
Yeah.
chickens.
I'd
Chickens,
give a little
ducks.
bit
Ducks
more.
or chickens, what do you say about that?
What'd you say?
Fowl.
No. He keep up with them now, we've got 10 there, and they're over.
Can we get a motion?
Hold on.
Okay.
Did he say he had 10 or he had about 10? I don't want him to have to kill a chicken if he's got 11.
10. Yeah, and I'm not gonna peek in to see if you got 11.
Mr. Chair, with respect to case 21,
What about the shed?
do we want to talk separately about the shed? Okay.
Yeah,
I
I'm good.
think the sheds are fine.
Good.
I just thought it should be brought
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, I think, you're right, it should. I mean, again, given the shape of the lot, the topography and everything, I don't think it's substantially, I don't think it's a substantial variance or even affects the here.
Agreed.
Anything to add to that?
No.
Mr. Chair, with respect to case 21, I move that we grant the variances with the conditions that the structures be in substantial conformance with the plans dated, or the documents dated August 15th, and that variance be subject to the condition that no more than 10 chickens reside on the lot.
Second.
A motion and a second. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Mr. Lawrence?
Aye.
Mr. Nye?
Aye.
Mr. Shekels?
Aye.
Mr. Halpin?
Aye.
Mr. Sine?
Aye. With that, you're tentatively approved. Staff will be in touch with next steps.
John, you keep forgetting, I forget that we have more to
You guys go home and eat these candies.
Well, I'm thinking to myself,
They pay you for the whole evening, you're gonna stay.
I'm thinking to myself, I'm not the secretary, so I don't have the state assignment during this.
Stay tuned.
Oh, that's right, yeah, it's gotta come up before that. Okay, I remember now.
There also needs to be a motion to adjourn.
Wait, what
You
would
would just
happen
go
if we
wild
just
scale.
left without moving to adjourn?
At this meeting, we
Meeting-
could be
meeting would
going
just
on
censure it.
forever.
The meeting would not close.
And then what?
It'd be in perpetuity.
How's that affect me?
We, before the next meeting, we would need to close it, probably, to adjourn that.
Well, we do that after we vote.
So everybody here's Cincinnatians, basically? We're all from Cincinnati?
On the transfer.
transplant.
Okay.
Doesn't change.
Yes, it does.
That's just a-
I don't say please when I don't hear you.
That's true.
I don't say soda. I don't say, what else do I say?
I don't say so.
Yeah, not everyone.
I'm born and raised here.
Yeah, I say
But some
Coke.
people.
Say Coke.
Say Coke. I say mom.
I say pop before I say either of those.
And it's also the only place I've ever been where if they ask you where you're from, they tell you the parish.
It's about what high school you go
What
to.
high
It doesn't
school?
matter where you went.
Parish or high school, one of the two. Where are you from? And they'll say, Elbert.
I don't care if you have a doctorate from Yale. Where'd you go to high school?
That was so jarring to me when I moved here. Like, cause I came down here after college to go to law school, and like the first day of law school, I'm meeting new people, and they'd say, where'd you go to school? I assume they meant college, cause I'm fresh from
No.
college. No, they wanted to learn about the high school.
College doesn't matter.
But
It's all
in
about high
Cincinnati, that just tells you so much about the people.
Yes, it does, yeah.
You know, if they're East Siders or West Siders.
I don't even know what the west side is. I've lived here 20 years, 20 years and 1 month now. I've been to the west side like twice. I went to Elder once, a friend in Elder took me to a football game there. There was one time I think I got lost.
I went to Oak Hills and for my 50th high school reunion, I went back and I don't know, 300 kids or maybe. I was the only one who lived on this side of high school.
I believe it.
Yeah, in Vine Street, the dividing line.
Yeah.
It's hard to get people out of there.
Ready?
One of my good friends moved over there, got married, and moved to the west side.
And you're still friends with him?
Golf all the time. We take turns going down either side of the town. I've spent so much time on the west side. My daughters both went to Sanders Law. So of course all their friends are on the west side.
I joke, I've been there a little bit.
I went to Purcell, by the way, just in case.
That's east side.
Please?
That's east side.
Yeah, definitely. I was actually born right down the street from Purcell, in Fairfax area. runs parallel with, Madison Road. Goes, it dead ends almost at Purcell.
The propellers are gone at the main liner now. It must have been gone for a while. I haven't been through there in a while. There's no propellers on the plane.
We used to go to the main liner.
All right, gentlemen, we're ready to.
All right.
After bar hopping.
Just a reminder, this is being recorded.
Well, there's nothing here we can't put on public TV so far.
I've seen worse on Facebook.
And race down Brewster Pike.
Still being recorded.
Back in the day.
My dad and his brother used to race their cars on the levee.
Yeah.
I'm good.
I think we should just take out the second sentence because partially inaccurate, right?
Yeah, he
Part
stated,
of it,
he stated the partially viable, which again, that was just from staff's understanding.
yeah, I mean, I think
He
let's
kind
just
of,
take,
yeah,
maybe let's just take it out.
it's your resolution, so
Yeah. Are we good with that?
just remove it.
Yeah.
We're good. Oh, it's the dreaded format.
Oh, no. What on earth?
Yeah, a little tab action going on there.
There you go. Okay.
We're still the wizard.
You might have to just go, there we go.
I'm sorry, I missed the last part,
Five.
yeah, last part 5. I think we should, we gotta rephrase that.
This will be observed as this is something to the effect that this is temporary.
Right, yeah, right.
Yeah, so, the spirit and intent behind the zoning review will be observed by granting this variance. The variance is for a specific period of time, and everything else can go.
Yeah. Or a limited period of time.
Well, specified,
Or something.
because we specified it down there.
Right.
Come on, you can do the, is for a specific length of time.
The variance is not permanent, but
Not permanent.
Permanent, that's fine,
Comes with expiration.
period.
Yeah.
happy to help.
Number one, I think we got September 30th, is that right? Paul?
Fixed. I thought you said
September, yeah, September 30th, yes.
Okay. I thought you'd stated October to October, but that's fine too.
Yep.
Is that the right date, August 5th?
Yeah, he submitted earlier than the rest of them. He was the first one.
All looks good to me.
I'm good.
Can we get a motion to approve?
I move that we approve the, resolution.
Second?
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Lawrence?
Aye.
Mr. Nye?
Aye.
Mr. Sheckles?
Aye.
Mr. Halpin?
Aye.
Mr. Science?
Aye.
And we used to go to the main liner up there on, in
That's a
Fairfax.
big place on Sundays.
It was always busy on Friday nights and Saturday nights, very busy. And that,
I've never been to a
You're missing out.
Best tartar
I'm not
sauce.
like avoiding it, I just.
All right, gentlemen, we got the next one up.
already? I thought we had
Paul
time
is
to talk.
just,
You can
he's down here.
You got somewhere to be?
He's got, he's
This meeting's a month long, where you gotta go?
the game doesn't
You
start
come here
till
on time.
8 something,
I
right?
heard so. I'd like to get out on time.
That's right,
I thought you were trying to leave, Mr. Halpin.
What?
Whether you wanna go or whether you
Well, we'll refuse to close the meeting. You can stay.
Well, I just wanted to give you some history about the main liner.
It's not that much.
kind of doing that now.
Yep.
Ditto.
Yep.
We get a motion?
I move that we approve the resolution for whichever one this is.
Case 20?
20?
Yep. Case
20,
2020.
Second. 124.
We have a motion and a second. Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Lawrence?
Aye.
Mr. Nye?
Aye.
Mr. Shekels?
Aye.
Mr. Halpin?
Aye.
Mr. Sion?
Aye.
The last resolution could use a little bit of, it'll probably need your input as it deviates a little bit from staff report.
Okay, so we have time to talk about the mainliner?
I'm stating that you will probably need to focus more on this one.
Okay.
So, a little bit
Less
different.
time about the mainliner. Understood.
That sounds like a great discussion after, after we adjourn.
We're gonna get a lot of hits on our
Critiques.
We're going viral.
They
Different
changed it
than
out a
what?
few months ago. Yeah.
Did they? I just noticed.
I
it.
thought
Of the
it was
building,
different
yeah.
too.
Huh.
It's clean.
You can just change variances, I guess. Very much variances, yeah.
That second paragraph, board hereby determines the variances for all. That sentence doesn't make sense. Board hereby determines that the variances would not be contrary to public interest, health, and safety. Take out to grant variances. You could say their location will not have a significant impact visually. Put a period after sign. Put a period after vegetation. 'Cause that sounds.
Yeah, just put,
Even when leaves
yeah,
get in, that's a string.
yeah, just put period after vegetation.
Yeah, say we couldn't get a decent winter shot because all the Google Street views were from this, when there should still be leaves. But he stated that there should be some existing screening along some of there as well.
So you don't need a rooster, huh?
Not for
This is a
eggs.
meeting where we discussed
You
that.
you need a rooster for extra chickens.
Well, I thought chickens came from eggs.
Apparently they drop eggs without a rooster.
It's that whole fertilization thing.
Which came first?
It was, it's a chicken or the egg.
So the essential character of the neighborhood.
He missed that biology course in high school.
Missed that biology class.
I don't think we talked about chickens in biology.
Number two, John. What do you think number two was?
Should township green space be capitalized? Is it not?
Period, is it road period, is that five filled out, or you missing a period at the end? Yeah, period.
What's four? We've got the train may present a
No,
challenge.
the train presents a challenge.
Yeah.
Not may.
It does.
variance, eh?
Yeah.
Okay.
These deviations are mitigated by the natural stream.
Calling it a chicken coop or is it agricultural structure?
I figured chicken, I will leave it chicken.
I'm not sure how they referenced it in their,
Call it what it is.
yeah, the resolution states agricultural structures, it doesn't discern between what type of animal is housed in the structure.
But it is a chicken.
Structures incident.
I-
Sheep or cow or roosters.
Here, keep
We
grabbing.
can give them a variance for 10 sheep.
Grab.
Okay, so the second and third sentences before, though, don't fit, right? Strike them entirely.
So he says chicken housing. if that-
Here, you got scratch
Chicken.
All right, just delete those two sentences. We would call it chicken coop or agricultural structures, I don't think that makes sense.
He says chicken housing, if that's a good common ground you wanna settle on.
Sounds like they've got no beds.
They do. Is it
We did not,
You did say that.
we did not inspect the interior of the chicken coop.
Well, why not?
They're chicken condos.
not permitted?
Uh,
All right.
I can ask him if he wants to let us go back and take pictures.
No, we're gonna stay with coop.
We can table this.
I think John wants to go and visit.
We're gonna,
For avoidance of doubt, and to make sure we don't have 400 chickens on the property, let's just say, number 3, no more than 10 chickens.
Is it to be housed?
can be.
Either way. Well, let's say
Or-
on the lot rather than in the structure.
Yeah.
Because if they want to roam around the yard, that's a different thing. And I don't want them to think we can have 10 in the structure
And 200 in the yard.
390 everywhere else.
On
right?
on the parcel.
In the on the property?
Yes.
On the
Yeah,
property.
On the property,
Yeah.
be housed on, on the property.
I think at least my hesitancy was we don't regulate animals, so they have free range chickens, like,
You get free range?
You can free range in the township,
Okay.
Okay.
because we don't regulate the animals.
All right, you give it.
Okay, then we have to leave it like that. It can't be housed.
I think that
Okay.
suffices.
The rest of them are open.
All right.
Then we're referring to agricultural structure here and chicken coop above. Do we want to be consistent there?
Say again?
Can't
Yeah,
you,
You've got
10 in the
agricultural
house,
structure in number
400
3 and
yards.
chicken coop in the above.
you gotta change the wording on 3 still.
I think that makes sense. but-
Can be or to be.
No, the
You could
condition
put
is that
chicken
no more
coop
than
in
10
parentheses
chickens.
behind agricultural.
10
No more than
chickens
10 chickens.
Whatever
are
your preference is.
housed in the agricultural structure.
Should,
Are we,
Gentlemen, we've got,
you agree or not?
I think it's fine as is. but-
No,
I
we'll leave
can't
it.
talk about the Frisch's mainliner, but hey, gotta have a big house.
So regarding the phrasing of agricultural structures versus chicken coop,
Well, it sounds like you really want chicken house.
I'm indifferent as far as the language.
What does the code say?
The code specifically talks about agricultural structures.
Change it all to agricultural structure.
Well-
Go do it.
You could
Yeah.
say agricultural structures and put chicken coop in parentheses behind it.
This is your resolution, so whatever you
Well,
feel is best.
if you feel more comfortable with having agricultural structure, a chicken coop.
I'm just noting the
Go with that.
difference in language. I'm just making sure we're consistent with the language throughout the resolution. So whatever your preference is. The code states agricultural structure. He states chicken housing.
Well,
We
let's
said
just say
chicken coop.
agricultural
What do we
structure.
call up at the top before this variance?
chicken,
fee
it's
section?
chicken coop
We
throughout
s-
the whole thing.
Agricultural structures, because that's what the code
Variance
says.
fees are cost on one agricultural structure.
Yes, so change it all to agricultural.
Change it all to
Yeah.
agricultural. Sure, let's do that one.
Because what if they get rid of the chickens and want to do ducks?
Then you have to come back.
it's all complaint driven. Monitor their property with plain limited.
And any other changes outside of changing the language to agricultural structure that we see? We're satisfied with condition 3 once we get there.
Paul wanted to change B to R.
That's fine.
I'll let that go slide. Now, if you really want to become a wordsmith, only 10 chickens. It would mean they could hire, put 4 pigs, 3 goats, horse in there.
Okay, so I'm rephrasing. The agricultural structure may house 10 or fewer chickens.
Only. Yeah, I'll have something like that, you know, because right now we're just saying 10 chickens, that doesn't mean they couldn't put 4 pig and a goat in there.
You can free range pigs and goats?
You can. The structure would only be, again, as the plan states consistent with the submitted documents. So if it deviates from that, I would talk to Gary about what our course of action would be.
We're gonna have a long meeting this January, aren't we?
We're going into the weeds.
I think
Yes.
this is no more than 10 chickens.
Okay. Can be, or you
Maybe.
are.
Can be, maybe, are, be,
Pick
any of
your,
those.
pick the one of them. Can, may, or are.
This is your resolution.
Okay,
Can be.
can be. Way to step on it, John.
Do we want a straw vote?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve and journalize our decision in case 2.
Second.
Motion second. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Mr. Lawrence?
Aye.
Mr. Nye?
Aye.
Mr. Shekels?
Aye.
Mr. Halpin?
Aye.
Mr. Sine?
Aye.
A motion to dismiss?
Second.
Motion to adjourn.
Any,
Objection.
Mr. Lawrence?
Objections?
No objection.
No objections, by unanimous
Mr. Nye?
Mr. Halpin wants to stay around and
All right.
discuss on the record.
We're
Unanimous.
good.
It's all good. Scripts. Secondary signer.